strong aggro decks, strong enough that even control players are going to want to bring them to tournaments.
Rogue, Druid, Hunter is going to be the lineup for Kolento versus Rogue, Druid, and Mage for Savjz. So Hunter and Mage really being the difference between these two. And I got to tell you, after playing Mech Mage a lot, it feels like it's pretty bad versus Face Hunter.
Yeah, I think unless you draw something like the Neurotron on turn 2, you're just gonna, or a Neurotron even in the later stages of the game, you're gonna have a hard time tempering the aggression of the Face Hunter. But enough about Face Hunter. Let's get into this match.
Yeah, Druid for Savjz and Rogue for Kolento. And not really exciting starts for either of these players. Savjz has a wild growth, but not a lot of aggression coupled with it. And Kolento's got 2 copies of Deadly Poison, but nothing really to combo off of that. I think both these players are going to be sitting here for a little bit. This Earthen Ring Farseer very liable to get played just as a 3/3 body. He's going to go ahead and do that. And Savjz, he does have an option to just go ahead and straight away Harrison Jones this dagger. And there's 2 different reasons why he's doing this. The first one is he wants to disrupt any of the tempo that Kolento's trying to get from this one. And the second one is that he just wants to pick up 2 cards. So when he does this, he's digging for innervates. He's digging for more wraths. He's digging for strong 5-drops and 6-drops, trying to get to his combo turns. He's just really trying to make sure he has the strongest turns possible. Going forward from here, since his first real play of the game is a turn 3 Harrison Jones. Kolento just perfect counter to this though.
Yeah, perfect counter. He's going to be able to essentially do things that Rogue typically does, using their efficient spells, efficient minions to get an early board lead and try to ride that lead into the late game, getting recursive damage every single turn. Unfortunately for Savjz, he does have the swipe. We saw in a previous game of Druid versus Rogue, where Kolento was the Rogue player, and unfortunately Calvi was the Druid, and he did not have a swipe in almost the exact same situation. We saw how that game ended for him when the Vile Teacher summoned over the course of the game about 8 1/1 tokens, and it just was too much for Calvi to manage, even though he had an insane card advantage.
Yeah, so Kolento, his draw is kind of dictating itself here. I think he's actually pretty much forced to go all in on this dagger here. So making a lot of tokens, and he's just kind of praying that Savjz doesn't have swipe here. And frankly, he just doesn't have another option. Like, he doesn't have a sprint, he doesn't have another Violet Teacher, he doesn't have Loatheb, he has none of that stuff, so he has to go on to this dagger. He gets Savjz down to 17, but swipe is just going to perfectly clear this up right now. And I imagine this shade is going to stay hidden, but I can definitely make an argument for unveiling it right now and trying to pick up this 5-point dagger into it.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's going to get traded into by the Backstab SI most likely. And wow, that's like the best card that Kolento probably could have hoped for. Besides maybe an Azure Drake, Sprint's going to let him refill his entire hand, and he gets it almost exactly when he needs to.
Yeah, if he picks up Preparation next turn, this could be a really big board swing. So Savjz looking at a 5-point dagger. Dr. Boom seems like it's a pretty good play here. Kolento's got 8 points of damage on the board still too, and Savjz is at 15, so this sprint is going to be extremely important in what it picks up.
I think sprint is going to be the play here. Off of Azure Drake, what could Kolento hope to draw? Blade Flurry might be okay, but it doesn't feel like the best.
Yeah, I think I would tend to favor sprint here as well. If he's going to think about all the cards that Azure Drake can draw, though, but just because he has the time to do it. So like, he's going to think to himself, if I draw Eviscerate, doesn't matter. If I draw Blade Flurry, doesn't matter, etc. And I think he's going to conclude that sprint is the best play as well. I think he just needs to get the ball rolling. If he picks up like a Tinker Oil and a Blade Flurry, I think he's got some really good arguments for closing this game out. And these 3 cards, oh my gosh, these are 4 extremely poor cards.
Yeah, he's really looking for the end game damage. As you said, the Tinker's Oil, maybe even an Eviscerate. Those are all just the game-winning cards. He's almost at the finish line right now, but he might fall just a bit short.
This 3 damage almost certainly go for face. I just don't think he can afford to attack Boombots or anything right now. So Savjz certainly going to be mindful of the fact that Blade Flurry is likely available to Kolento at this point.
He's thinking about wrathing the SI agent. Okay, I thought the screen was frozen for a second. I was a bit worried there.
Yeah, this is probably going to be a taunt on this Druid of the Claw also, but we're going to take a look at the life totals real quick. So 9 points of damage, that's going to drop him to 17. And then he's going to have 13 points of damage after that. Yeah, this is going to be a taunt for sure.
Yeah, I like the taunt a bit better because it's a bit awkward for Kolento to deal 1 extra damage to the Druid of the Claw if it goes into taunt mode. He's thinking about it though.
I mean, definitely think there are some arguments for charging this, but I think when you're getting, again, when he's this close to the finish line, I think it's better to take sort of your defensive stances. This is a card I used to always charge. And really what ends up happening is the metagame is just developed to a point where people are trying to burst, but they're usually trying to burst in like, not like 20 damage combos, but sort of like 7 to 8 damage at a time, and really try to push forward from there. And stuff like Druid of the Claw and Taunt or Sludge Belcher really throws a wrench into those plans more so than it used to, I feel like. There's Eviscerate, but that's probably not going to be enough right now. He really needed a Blade Flurry.
Yeah, he has a few chances, or at least 1 chance to draw it. If he Aggro Drakes or a Fan of Knives and gets something like a Preparation, then he might have 2 chances to draw it. But yeah, unfortunately, no Blade Flurry now. He still has 1 more chance, or 1 or 2 more chances.
Yeah, Fan of Knives into Fan of Knives is also a possibility. That still gives him a chance for Blade Flurry.
That's true.
So 2 draws for it. That's not going to be it. And the Boombots deal 5 damage. That's exactly average.
You know, one thing I want to point out is this is kind of the battle of the high legend decks. Kolento recently got #2 legend with this exact rogue deck, and Savjz got #1 legend with this druid deck. So possibly 2 of each of these respective players' better decks right now.
I gotta believe this is their Fan of Knives. I mean, it feels like he needs. He just needs Blade Flurry so bad.
Yeah, Kolento has to be thinking there's some ways for his opponent to deal that extra damage, but Savjz deckhand is not it.
Yep. SI7 Agent and Eviscerate, I think, was the other play he was thinking about.
But yeah, that's going to be game over. And even Savage Lord to boot.
just in case he didn't have enough damage. Savjz going to jump out to a very quick 1-0 lead here. These decks are so aggressive in their nature. Kolento just, being forced to go all in that early, I think, is a position he didn't want to be in. But he recognized that's exactly what he had to do to try to pick up a win. So kudos to him for recognizing that. But just Swipe being such a brutal. The Wild Growth actually making such a big difference in this too, because if he didn't have Wild Growth, he actually wouldn't have had the clean kill onto the Violet Teacher the turn that he did.
Yeah, essentially with you're facing off against Violet Teacher, you need pretty much 6 mana if you don't have a board. You need that Swipe plus a Hero Power or a Wrath, and exactly what Savjz had, exactly what he needed. He was 1 mana ahead, 6 mana ahead of Kolento's 4 mana that when he played the Violet Teacher.
Yeah.
So Wild Growth definitely, as with most games, playing a very important role.
So, again, this is Conquest format, so when you win with a deck, it's going to become locked. It's not like Last Hero Standing. So Savjz's Druid is going to become locked, and Kolento can use any of his unlocked decks moving into the next game. He doesn't have to play Rogue. He has all 3 of his decks available. What do you think he's going to go with here next? He's got Rogue, he's got Druid, he's got Hunter, and Savjz is going to have Rogue and Mage left. What do you think matches up best against those 2?
I would have to think like Face Hunter would actually be fairly good. As you mentioned, Face Hunter probably very good. Well, forget that. I was gonna say, as you analyzed before, Face Hunter seems to be a decent matchup against Mech Mage, but Face Hunter, because Rogue doesn't have that many heals, it could be a favorable matchup against Rogue as well. But then again, Face Hunter could be a good matchup against Druid. So I think that's just a testament to Kolento's lineup and how he decided to play everything out.
Yeah, this is. I still really like Rogue here too. It matches up really well against Mech Mage. I actually think it's one of the reasons why it's been doing so well is because of the power it holds against Mech Mage. So Blade Flurry in the opening hand, South Sea Deckhand. You can catch a glimpse of what that other card was. It's a preparation. So pretty decent start here from Savjz, and not the most exciting start from Kolento, but that's sort of how this Rogue deck feels like it rolls out, is that it doesn't have these impressive opening hands, but when you add 2 or 3 cards to these starts, you really start to see things come together. It's based on the synergy that it has within all of its cards. That's where it really generates its power from.
Yeah, it's, in this matchup in particular, synergies between Backstab and SI Agent, synergies between Preparation and Fan of Knives are really what make the deck really stand out.
I really, really think he's going to end up coining Dagger here. Oh, he's just going to pass. So I liked coining Dagger here because if you did that, you had Savjz deckhand into Dagger to take out this Snow Chugger, and that's going to keep your board clean. Pretty much everything that's happening. Picks up Fan of Knives.
Yeah, we have the preparation Fan of Knives, but unfortunately nothing really to follow that up.
Yeah, I think he's going to end up holding that until this Azure Drake comes down, and so he's going to be looking for a big Fan of Knives turn.
Yeah, very nice. It's just a way for Rogue to come back from that kind of position. Kolento he got the coin, so he's really looking for those SI agents, but unfortunately he hasn't drawn one yet.
Yeah, no SI, no backstab. Those are two extremely key cards in this matchup. And no Deadly Poison either.
Yeah, another key card, or maybe just a nice utility card in this matchup, is that Savjz deckhand. If Mirror Entity comes on the field from the Mech Mage, the Savjz deckhand is essentially the perfect counter to Mirror Entity. It just basically kills itself.
Yeah.
And you're essentially using 1 mana to take care of like a 3 mana secret.
Yep. Also pretty good against Freezing Trap.
Yep. Back in the day when hunters were really big, some players, such as yourself, I believe, even put in Savjz deckhands into their Miracle Rose just to test for traps.
Yeah, it was quite literally to test for traps. It did a fantastic job at doing that, by the way. I think it was the top 9 Miracle Rogue players that season all had a Savjz deckhand in their list. It was really the difference between winning that matchup a lot and not winning it very much at all. Just a simpler time where everyone could kill everyone on turn 9.
Oh, how we miss those days.
Not a lot of action here, but expending this Dagger Charge and Earthbending Farseering to help contest this board is something he might do, but I don't mind him holding on to the Earthbending Farseer either for just a little bit longer, but
just basically all of your options look not that efficient. Fan of Knives doesn't really do anything.
He could coin along with it to clear out both these minions, but again, he's expending so much to do that his hand ends up being basically his opening hand for a very long time, and I think that's what he's trying to avoid. He wants to put together combinations of cards.
Yeah, just one of the difficulties of playing Rogue, you just have to know all the combinations in your deck really well and put them together in kind of like puzzle pieces to make them have the maximum effect. When you're playing something like Druid, for example, you're usually just playing the minion that you can play on curve every turn, but with Rogue, there's just so many decisions all the time, and I think that's why a lot of players have become like Rogue specialists, such as Hyped or maybe possibly even Dog.
Yeah, Rogue is just one of those decks. It's so difficult. Everything is so tricky. I'm just going to Earthbending Farseer here, and Savjz faced with a decision. Does he want to trade this Cogmaster in, or does he just want to go face?
You know, even though Kolento's hand might not be the best, he's doing a really good job at tempering the damage. Kolento's still at a very healthy 28 HP right now.
No super strong turns still available for Kolento. He's looking for one of those big swing turns. But now he's facing down a lot of damage. Something's going to have to get done.
Yeah, something has got to give.
Violet Teacher. Oh, it feels like it's a little bit late right now. So Savjz deckhand, yeah, he can't afford to keep tanking this much damage. And he's actually only going to take 1 from this Cogmaster too, because the Noyatron's going to get picked off.
Just really nice from Kolento. We've been kind of saying that his hand isn't the greatest, but he's been doing a really good job with what he has so far.
Yep. 4 damage across the dome. And this is finally the first time that Kolento cannot actually answer everything that's going on the board. So Savjz about to buy himself 8 extra points of damage, and that emergency cool, and I think it's going to do some work.
Yeah, like we talked about before, Rogue is a deck with a lot of answers and a lot of minions, so it's kind of like a half of a deck plus the other half of the deck. And Kolento's mostly used the first half of his deck, which are the removals, so he's left with just a lot of minions on board right now.
Oh my gosh, Mirror Entity is a really crucial draw right now. This is going to help put a lot of pressure on Kolento. He's going to want to play a worse minion before he plays a better one, that's for sure. But Savjz, you know, Azure Drake is certainly one of those minions that kind of feels like it has Tonto. Like, I wouldn't blame him for trying to take this out, because if he saw something like Poison and Blade Flurry next turn, that might be enough to like really put some damage on him. But I think given his hand context, he doesn't have time to do that. He's just got to favor face damage.
Yeah, I tend to agree here. And freezing the Azure Drake is just such a good option right now. Um, you still have spell power on the field, but you've already seen at least one Phantom Knife, and you've seen one Eviscerate, so you're kind of feeling a little better about it right now. And as Savjz is an experienced rogue player himself, he can kind of predict that Kolento might have the hand that he has right now, just a handful of really clunky minions that he can't just play out, because of the mirror entity.
Yep. None of these plays look very good for Kolento right now. Just he drew an okay hand for disrupting early, but he's just not able to follow it up. Again, no backstabs, no SI agents, no deadly poisons. Those are super critical cards in this matchup.
Yeah, we said a few turns ago that Kolento has been doing a really great job at tempering damage, and he was at 28 HP just a few turns ago. But right now he's sitting at 15 HP with no way to actually clear the board at all. So he's looking at least 10 damage with just a Fireball top deck to end the game.
And that's if he doesn't play a minion. He's going to have to play a minion this turn. So now he's looking at even more damage.
Essentially, it's going to be net neutral because he heals for 3 HP, but he also is going to take 3 HP from this Earthering Farseer.
Pacing down 13 damage now, 14 with the hero power. Oh my gosh, this could
Fast Mage.
Yeah, this could really change things. Yeah, let it rip first.
Not exactly. Oh man.
Wow, that's not a bad result. So now it's a matter of how he allocates this damage. Is he just going to throw it all to his opponent's face and say, here, you figure it out?
I think he really has to be wary of something like a Blade Flurry right now, because I believe that might be one of the only cards that can bring Kolento back into this game.
What to do? What to do?
And if you're worried about Blade Flurry, then I would have to think that, yeah, you freeze the face and maybe considering taking out this Azure Drake.
Yeah, using the 3/3 body to do that I don't think is that bad of an idea, but using the Mech Yeti isn't poor either. I mean, you just froze their dagger. They're already low on life total anyway. I think he's just going to favor going for the safe play. So if he attacked face, he would put his opponent way closer to Frostbolt range. But right now, I mean, this is still very dangerous territory for Kolento. He didn't have a way to answer this last turn, so he probably doesn't have a way to answer it this turn.
And indeed, he doesn't have any way whatsoever. He can try to fish with the sprint, but he definitely needs to draw at least a preparation, and then what can he even prepare for?
Yeah, I mean, if he blood mages and he uses a dagger and he blade flurries, he can put his 2/2 into the 4/1 after that, and then put his Earthring Farseer into the Goblin Blast Mage, but he's still facing down 7 points of damage. So he's forced to sprint here and try to pick something up, and he doesn't find anything. And Savjz is going to jump out to a 2-0 lead in this series now. Wow, I mean, these games are looking really one-sided as we're taking a look at him. And Savjz, I mean, we just saw him win with Druid, and we saw him win with Mage now. He's got Rogue left.
Yeah, Rogue. Yeah, Rogue. And I would have to think, as Kolento has been picking Rogue for the first 2 games, I would have to think that there's probably going to be a Rogue mirror coming up in the near future.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to have to win with Rogue at some point anyway if he's going to win this series. So it would make a lot of sense for him to go ahead and launch it out now and see what happens. But maybe he just wants to get his mindset straight, and you can see, like, I mean, we can see Kolento right now. He looks a little bit like he's stressed almost. He's thinking a lot about this matchup, and he's trying to figure out what he could have done differently to change these outcomes. And frankly, I just don't think the cards were there to do it.
Yeah, we saw something similar from Kolento in the previous tournament that he played in, which was the Pinnacle number 3. Kolento, unfortunately, he didn't get the draws in that tournament either, and he actually went out surprisingly 0-2 in the group stage. So Kolento, he has won 2 tournaments in GVG, but overall his record is actually not that great. He started off GVG with something like a 210 record, and he's still about 50% right now. So losing 2 tournaments in a row, not something that Kolento will want to see.
Yeah, so he's going to go with Druid here, and this is going to be a spot where I think he really needs to pick up a win. I mean, he's out of the tournament if he doesn't, but just like from a mindset perspective, it's, you know, losing 3-0 does not feel as good as picking up a game here and there. We've seen a lot of 3-0s today, and I don't think he wants to be in that category. And right now, this opening hand, he's got a Shade Next Ralmus, but he needs an Innervate, he needs a Wild Growth. Really wants to get the pressure in the tempo set.
Yeah, I think the most important card in Kolento's hand right now, even though he might not have it, is the coin. Coin matters so much in this matchup. It allows Savjz to be able to combo so many things that, wow, double Innervate.
Nice start here for Kolento. This might, I mean, this is definitely the makings of an opening that can win the game very easily.
But at the same time, Savjz, I feel like, has one of the most important cards that you could start off with as well, which is the Violet Teacher. As we mentioned before, Violet Teacher is a card that if you're against Druid, you play that card on turn 4, perhaps prepare some spells along with the Violet Teacher, and then you force the Druid player to have a swipe in order to deal with it.
Yeah, the 1/1 tokens can quickly get out of hand. And with preparation and Eviscerate, I think he's feeling pretty safe this game, but this turn 1 Shade is definitely a potential problem. He's just going to go straight for the aggro here, too. I love it. Just get that dagger out of here, disrupt his mana, pick up 2 cards from this. I cannot think of a better turn for Kolento than this Harrison Jones on 2 here. Picks up Sludge Belcher and Azure Drake, so his curve is not going to be too great for the next couple of turns, but he has a tremendous presence on the board right now. And Savjz does not want to use this Eviscerate quite yet. So he's going to eat some damage here. And another 5-drop for Kolento. That's not what he wanted to see. I think Wild Growth is probably one of his best draws there.
Oh yeah, definitely. Wild Growth or another Shade. He's already used both Innervates, so Innervating out a 5-drop wouldn't have been a possibility. So basically not too many draws that Kolento could have gotten, so this is not too unlucky for him in this circumstance.
Yeah, I would love to, yeah, keeping the Shade hidden here is so important too. You're not really vulnerable to anything at this point. So Harrison going to get dealt with, and there's no Wrath on Kolento's side of the board, but this might be a turn where you end up seeing the Shade come out just to deal with his Violet Teacher and keep things under control.
Yeah, the Violet Teacher is so important that if you don't have a swipe, I think you just essentially have to reveal the Shade now.
Yep. So I imagine he's going to be Wrathing first to pick up a card.
Do you think he could also value putting out his second Shade earlier instead of using his entire mana to clear the 1/1s?
It's definitely possible. You know, another possibility too is he's not going to take this line, but another possibility is just Wrathing the Violet Teacher twice and keeping the Shade hidden. Oh, and there's Swipe. So now that he's drawn this Swipe, he actually may keep this Shade hidden again, but I still think I'd like to see him unveil it. Yeah, okay, he's going to go for it. So it's not vulnerable to backstab. It is to Deadly Poison, though.
Yeah, what an excellent draw. If Savjz hadn't drawn that Deadly Poison, he would have been almost forced to use his Blade Flurry on a 5/2 Shade.
Yeah, that's not a position you want to be in. Just so much damage you'd have to take and then ruin your dagger. And daggers are just getting destroyed this match. Nobody likes daggers.
Yeah, we saw in the reverse matchup, Savjz also got a Harrison Jones at a 2/1 dagger. Definitely, daggers not the best weapon. They all belong in museums.
I wonder how many weapons you have in museums. That's an infographic I want to see.
Yeah, we saw a lot of people were requesting that on Twitter in the next infographic recently.
So another not clean turn here from Kolento. His opening was so explosive. And Savjz is almost out of cards though, so if Kolento can stabilize past this point, I think he's primed.
Yeah, if Kolento can stabilize and Savjz doesn't draw something like a Sprint or Azure Drake, then I think Kolento will just run away with this game. But it all depends.
Oh, wow, that is a huge draw right now. We saw Kolento draw Sprint on turn 7 earlier, and it wasn't enough. And this Sprint, these are four I would consider relatively mediocre pickups at this point. And it's just so desperate to keep damage from going to his face because he's at a low life total and Kolento's heading into these end turns that he's just going to go ahead and trade away here.
Yeah, with the trades that Kolento decided to, or rather that Savjz decided to make, he essentially forces Dr. Boom not to be played on turn 7. This one attack Lotheb is just so juicy that you really need to hero power it or wrath it, I feel.
Yeah. Would you tend to favor Wrath here or Hero Power? I mean, he's at 31 right now, and Hero Power would take him to 32, so he can take effectively 3 damage to clear the Lotheb, or he can use Wrath and pick up a card. He could also even swipe and develop Shade. And just I don't really know which one of these is best. I think I would tend to Hero Power here, so that way you can keep the board under control, because your opponent just drew 4 cards, so they play 2 3/3s this turn. You might see something be able to start developing.
Yeah, I would agree with you as well. I think the Wrath is so valuable in this matchup to deal with all the 3/3s. Plus, you're at an extremely high health, but Kolento opts to go for the Wrath, I see.
Yeah, 2 swipes, I think, is influencing that a lot. If he didn't have 2 swipes, I think he probably would end up saving this.
Ooh, prep is really good.
Yeah, these are some potentially really big turns here from Savjz. Do you think he's just going to prep sprint again?
Yeah, just judging by his hand, he has nothing better to do now. Prep sprint, hopefully draw something like a backstab and then, or something like an eviscerate, and then he'll be able to clear the board.
He's going to be looking at yielding initiative over to Kolento again too, so he definitely needs to find a lot of options to get this board cleared.
Oh wow, okay, this is another way to clear the board.
Yeah, this is the one that I wasn't really expecting as much because it kind of... You know what? This actually makes a lot of sense now that I'm looking at it. He's going to go to 15 exactly from this, and he's got an anti-heal bot. And again, sort of in the same vein, he's trying to prevent Dr. Boom from getting played. So if he continues to present these minor problems for Kolento, these 5-1 minions that he has to deal with, it's going to keep him from playing stuff like Dr. Boom, which is exactly what his goal is. Unfortunately for him, Kolento's got 2 swipes, so he's able to put a lot of pressure on him at the same time. And, oh gosh, this is still looking brutal. Does he have to prep this eviscerate?
Oh man.
I mean, how much more damage can you afford to take?
If you prep the eviscerate right now, then that probably means Sprint is going to have an awfully hard time ever coming onto the board. So Savjz has to think, if I just use the prep for the eviscerate, then can I win the game with just these cards right now, plus 1 card I'll draw every turn?
Right, because if he goes to 19 from Antique Healbot and doesn't deal with this Piloted Shredder, he's looking at potential lethal next turn from Force Nature and Savjz. So that's what it's going through his head right now. That's why he's choosing to prep this Sprint. Gets a Vitality Totem, I think, is fantastic for him, by the way.
Yeah, Vitality Totem just puts him out of lethal range, out of anything that he could do.
Yeah.
And he'll be able to even buff it up with Savage Roar in coming turns.
So still putting pressure on the Vitality Totem, though. I'm curious exactly how Kolento proceeds from here, because now he's looking at 2-3. Like, this is the kind of situation we were talking about when 2-3-3s get on the board, and then he's looking at a minor problem for this point, because this is where Rogue is able to keep initiative and clear what's happening. This is the situation he was quite literally trying to avoid, and Vitality Totem is kind of, it's biting him a little bit in that respect. It's something that definitely has to be dealt with, but Savjz has time to deal with it.
You know, I was saying that Sprint might not see effect coming out in the Rogue's hand, but now because Savjz has both a Blade Flurry and a Sprint, which effectively acts like a quality Consecrate board clear, and actually you might see a pretty good turn from Savjz even utilizing the prep.
I think he's going to have to this turn. So I imagine he's going to clear out this Vitality Totem. I'm sorry, he's not going to clear out the Blade. He's going to be... What am I talking about? He's going to be Blade Flurrying this turn. So Sprint's going to come out first. Let's see what he picks up. Sap is not a good target for on Dr. Boom.
Yeah, I don't think you ever want to sap a Dr. Boom usually, because you're just essentially giving him more boom bots, correct?
So now the question is, does he want to use cards to clear this Dr. Boom and try to keep his 3/3s? Or does he want to move forward from there? This board's going to have to get cleared this turn. That's the one thing that's not in question.
I think you maybe don't value the 3/3s as much because you don't have the Tinker's Sharp Sword Oil in your hand right now. So you maybe don't want to value the board control as much. But I just feel like Rogue is a class that they need board control to finish the game off. And there's no guarantee that the 3/3s will even survive if you expend all your spells to clear Dr. Boom.
This is another really unforeseen sort of thing that Dr. Boom presents, is that even when you clear it, it's yielding initiative to your opponent, which is like basically the entire game is trying to get initiative and find favorable trades. So these boombots really mattering a lot, and they clear out the 3/3, put 2 points of damage into his face. So he's not in lethal range right now, but Kolento's got a pretty great turn here with Ancient Allure and Shaded Exramus. This is going to reload his hand, dig him further to Savjz, and put 2 threats on the board. And this is like almost exactly the situation that Savjz is trying to avoid now.
Yeah, not only does Kolento develop the board, but now Savjz knows, hey, I'm probably going to get Force of Nature Savjz next turn. So I don't see many options for Savjz, if there's any options at all.
Yep.
He has to just basically hope there's no combo and just play the game from there, hoping he gets some insanely nice draws.
I would tend to agree with you too. But there's just swipes sitting in Kolento's hand too, so everything just being answered from Savjz, despite the fact that he's able to have applied a lot of pressure at this point. Kolento's just got the answers.
Yeah, Savjz is 1 damage off from a really good turn though. He can't really clear both the Shade of Naxxramas and the Ancient of Lore, unfortunately.
Yep. Making sure he takes out the Shade. And no direct answer to this Ancient Lore, so 5 points of damage. Going to be crashing in here. Oh, is this lethal? Hang on. 11. He's got 15 points of damage. He's 1 damage off lethal this turn.
If he had something like an Innervate, that would be lethal. But
Yep.
I think Kolento can definitely afford to play this game fairly slowly right now.
I agree with you.
Maybe even swipe. Maybe even play the Keeper of the Grove or charge the. Oh, he's gonna play it even slower. He's gonna Wild Growth.
Yeah, so Wild Growth is going to let him see one more card just in case it gives him extra options.
Yeah, I think with this play, he may consider just swiping and play Keeper of the Grove.
That was 1 card away from being lethal this turn, so I don't actually know if Savjz can get out of this one. 5, 9. Again, 1 damage off lethal even with charge in the Savage Roar. So he's going to swipe here. And I imagine this is going to be Keeper of the Grove just to get extra presence on the board. He just wants to apply maximum pressure. And from this point, I think it's close to impossible for Savjz to actually get back into this game. He just doesn't have the tools available.
Yeah, he also doesn't just have the heals available, and he's used his Lotheb, so no way to prevent the lethal combo. Savjz, he's seen Kolento drawn like 20 or so cards in his deck, so again, he must know that Kolento does have the Savage Roar Force of Nature combo, and
Yep.
again, he can't play around it at all.
Just no viable options. And that's gonna do. All right, that's gonna do this game 3. Kolento's finally gonna get on the board here, 2 games to 1, and so his Druid deck's gonna be locked, and Savjz has got 2 more chances with this Rogue deck to pull off a win. He's gonna have to do it either versus Rogue or versus Hunter, and I think the Face Hunter matchup, he's got Antique Healbot, so I think it's a little bit better for him, but it's still gonna be an uphill battle for him. And I'm just gonna go charge. Doesn't want to reveal it, Force of Nature. Not that Savjz doesn't know he has it. Again, when you a lot of players have been trimming one Force of Nature, so when you show one, I think it puts the thought of combo in your opponent's head more than it already is, because every single card you show makes it more likely that you have 2 copies of them than if you don't show them, which means you might only have 1 copy. And I think that Kolento doesn't want him to account for combo in a lot of situations, or rather, will throw caution to the wind more often.
Unfortunately, Rogue is seeming like the weak deck in this match so far. Every game we've had so far has been a Rogue player losing. Savjz lost 1 game with the Rogue, Kolento lost 2 games with the Rogue. So if it ever comes down to it, we may see a Rogue mirror deciding the fate of this match.
Yeah, it's funny that you pointed out Rogue has been really strong, but it feels like in this tournament it's just been targeted. Every single deck seems to be, it's lining up to perform really well against Rogue. So we're going to hop into game 4. And it's going to be Rogue versus Rogue straight away. These guys are not kidding around. Kolento hungry for this win, and he needs it, or else he's out of this match. And Savjz, he's got to win one of these next 2 games. And that's a pretty decent opener, I'd say.
Yeah, from Savjz's perspective, he's very happy that he both has the coin and has denied his opponent the coin. But Kolento, he still hasn't. I guess he has Lotheb, but I'm not actually sure if you keep Lotheb in Rogue mirrors these days. Well, Savjz actually kept all 4 cards, so Kolento must be extremely scared, especially since Savjz does have the coin.
Yeah. This is not a position you want to be in. I think Lotheb is probably a keep in this matchup, just to make sure that you have a way to check Violet Teachers and things like that. Make sure that your opponent doesn't seize extremely strong tempo plays going to that turn 4, that turn 5 range.
Yeah, I feel like Lotheb, that's probably one of the best uses of it right now in this matchup. Not to check Auctioneer, but to actually check turn 4 Violet Teachers, because that card is just probably one of the best cards in Rogue right now.
Hands are developing pretty strong for both players.
Again, I like Savjz's hand slightly more, I'd say, because he not only has the Violet Teacher, but he also has the coin and a preparation.
Yep. I think this SI7 agent is just going to have to come down. He's just got to get something going. He also wants to draw some removal with this potentially, so that his Violet Teacher is a little bit safer. This also gives him enough information to be able to make some decisions moving forward. So if he sees a poison now, he may feel a little bit more reluctant to drop Violet Teacher on turn 4.
The other play potentially is just go kind of YOLO with the coin, Violet Teacher, prep, Deadly Poison. That just gives him a much stronger board presence.
It is definitely very YOLO. That's a lot of cards to use to get 2 tokens.
It gives him 2 tokens. It also gives him initiative on the board because, like you said, Lotheb does kind of check Violet Teacher, but if he plays this combo on turn 3, then Lotheb won't be able to check the Violet Teacher for a very long time, for 2 turns, in fact.
Yep. Wow, it looks like it's exactly what he's going to go for, too. So he's going to steal initiative early on. So a little bit of a risk here because Band of Knives is one of those cards he wants to try to avoid. But like you said, initiative, it's just hard for Rogue to really answer this efficiently with 4 mana. This Violet Teacher, I imagine, is going to end up fighting the Dust to Deadly Poison into Savjz deckhand. But that is, again, it's giving Savjz a lot of initiative for this, because this means you're not seeing a Violet Teacher from your opponent. You're not likely going to see pretty much any other minion. I mean, you saw SI7 agent come down blank. So unless he's got another SI7 agent or an Earthen Ring Farseer, there's no other minion that's going to get played this turn.
Yeah, the Violet Teacher is one of those minions that is just threatening enough that you may have to expend all these tools like the Deadly Poison and the Savjz deckhand just to kill it off. And if you do that, you even float 2 mana. So, just not an efficient use of mana. Just Savjz, even though it looked like he expended so many cards to get this playoff, it makes Kolento's turn very unfavorable.
Yeah, so Kolento's just going to go with Violet Teacher, hit a token, and pass. So everything in Savjz's court right now.
Oh man, the Earthen Ring Farseer in Savjz's hand is going to do a lot of work here. Oh, but it's actually going to be... Is it going to be a sap?
I really like sap here because your opponent just showed they actually don't have a way to answer this Violet Teacher. So you're just not afraid of anything, I don't think.
Okay. You've also probably seen that your opponent probably doesn't have many or a fan of knives or any AoE. So yeah, I like this as well.
It's a strong read from him. Kolento's play is inconsistent with having a way to actually remove this Violet Teacher, so it makes the most sense.
Yeah, Kolento, he has some answers like the Deadly Poisons and the Savjz deckhands, if you can call a Savjz deckhand an answer even, and he has some minions, but just not the correct answers for Savjz's board. Savjz really utilizing the coin very well. The coin essentially let him get a 1 mana boost into what Kolento usually answers is the answers with. Like the Lotheb usually answers the Violet Teacher, but because Savjz was 1 mana ahead, he used his advantage very efficiently, to which Kolento is now left with a very awkward board.
Yeah, none of these plays look good. I mean, even Lotheb's checked by the dagger and the tokens that are on board. Clearing this Violet Teacher is super inefficient because you're facing down still 3 points of damage than whatever development Savjz is going to have next turn. Violet Teacher is not able to get work done right now. He has no preparation and no backstab. This is a tough turn. I mean, nothing looks good.
Yeah, it especially looks bad because Savjz actually has a Lotheb in his hand, so that's almost certainly going to come down on turn 5, and it's going to lock down Kolento even more.
Yeah, so he's just going to go with Lotheb and try to get Savjz to commit to this in an awkward way, but I don't think it's going to be happening. I think you're going to see a return Lotheb.
I think this is I don't think Savjz is actually going to waste much time on it. Nope.
Yeah, this is not a difficult decision, I don't think.
Yeah, Savjz has the pressure on with this Violet Teacher, and he's just going to keep the pressure on.
Yeah, Lotheb's going to buy at least 8 more damage here, and anything that Kolento plays is going to get checked.
Just both 2 of the most threatening minions you could have on board right now. The Violet Teacher just always represents a threat, and the Lotheb is just the strongest minion in the Rogue deck.
Oh, this looks ugly. How do you beat this board position? You're just going to be taking 8 damage next turn.
Like, you're almost certainly going to do this Farseer SI play, but what do you even SI, right?
None of it looks good right now. Yeah, I mean, the Lotheb is certainly what you SI, I think. So Violet Teacher's going to run in here, and I imagine this is going to see a heal up and eviscerate. So something like Blade Flurry actually would do a pretty good job, I think, of putting Kolento back in this game.
Yeah, Blade Flurry would do pretty well.
That's about the only card, though.
I like healing the Lotheb over the Violet Teacher, though. If Kolento did have that Blade Flurry play, then he would either have to take 5 extra damage, or he would have to kind of waste one of his quote-unquote waste one of his deadly poison charges and go to face with it.
So no dagger. You know, if Kolento had a dagger up, this turn would look pretty good too. He'd be able to just play Violet Teacher, play Sousy Deckhand, eviscerate the Lotheb. He takes some damage clearing it up, and would actually get it cleared. Again, just that little extra tempo that Savjz bought with a coin is just, it's dictating the entire pace of this game.
Kolento can actually clear most of this board right now, but he's going to take a lot of damage doing so.
Is there any merit to sapping Lotheb?
I think there's only merit in sapping Lotheb if you can develop your side of the board as well on the same turn.
Right.
Otherwise, Lotheb is just going to come down and you're going to get locked out yet again. And he's going to play the Violet Teacher.
Pay attention, class.
Now, this tells me that he's trying to develop the board a bit more.
Yeah. So doing what he can. Violet Teacher is... His Violet Teacher is potentially checked by this Lotheb. But this is if Savjz, like, frankly, just doesn't have any damage. We draw something like Backstab here. That's real. Oh, jeez. That is got to be the best draw on the deck right now. Oh my gosh, that is so much damage. This is really bad news for Kolento. Oh, and it even drops on the Lotheb.
Oh, it's gonna go
crashing in for 8 damage. I think you just go face with this dagger. How does your deal you 22 points of damage from this spot?
Yeah, very good point.
Yeah, it's just
Rogue is known for bursting out a lot of damage, but even if Kolento had some miraculous draw with double preparation, double Tinker Sharp Sword All, these Sharp Sword Alls are might have a chance to land on the tokens themselves. So Kolento